sharing these small stories is how they're going to be building the connection with their audience and where their value is going to increase because people are now understanding more about their process, about how they work, and more about them. So I would have them look at their project they're working on right now. They could create a reel, they could create a carousel post, and just walking through the story, the little storyline or the challenge or what makes it unique.
Welcome to This Might Get Creative, a Behind the Brand podcast by Lyon Creatives. I'm Svenja Lyon, and in each episode, I sit down with local business owners and entrepreneurs to share their stories, how they got started, what keeps them going, and what makes their business stand out. My goal? To help more amazing businesses be seen, supported, and celebrated. So grab your coffee, because this might just get creative. Welcome back to This Might Get Creative, a Behind the Brand podcast. Today's conversation is about something a lot of creative business owners struggle with, showing people what your work is really worth. Not just the beautiful final product, but the time, intention, and craft that goes into every single piece. I'm joined by Nicole Bedard, a brand photographer, video storyteller, and strategist based in Connecticut. Nicole works with makers, artists, and designers to translate their creative process into intentional visual storytelling. Her photography and video create imagery that doesn't just look good. It attracts aligned clients who truly respect and invest in the craft. She's an award-winning photographer with a background in design, professional photography training, and years of editorial experience. Today, we're talking about the challenge of showing the value behind your work, how to use visual storytelling as a marketing tool, what it means to show up authentically online, and why process matters just as much as the finished product. Welcome, Nicole, and I'm very glad to have you.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your business. Like when did you start? What is it about?
Yes, this was actually a career pivot about 16 years ago. I can't believe how much time has passed, but I was in a non-creative field, but always had a camera in my hand. And an opportunity came up where I walked past this digital photography program for a year and dreamt about how amazing that could be. And so I took a leap of faith and I haven't looked back since. And I am now based in Connecticut, love working with creative business owners, makers, artists, and designers. And maybe about 7 to 8 years ago was when I really started expanding my creative curiosity and went into video. That has now evolved into, I love an overhead perspective view. So I'd have my drone pilot license now. And I really love expanding my own creative offerings to then support all my creative business owners out there.
That is so cool. Really, really love that story, especially with the drones. That is something so unique that not everybody, anybody is. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that offer it, but I have not met anyone who does it yet.
It's so fun.
Yeah. And also I was the way when I started, so a little backstory, and I mentioned that before, but when I went to school, I always wanted to do graphic design, always wanted to do something creative, but then, the marketing route was a little bit more safe than the creative route. And so I did take the corporate and marketing route, but it was just very challenging for me. It was just, I don't think, just pure marketing. It's just, not creative enough for me. So then also in 2010, that's when Lyon Creatives started. So long time for somebody.
I know. How did it go so fast?
I know. I don't remember. So you work specifically with makers and designers, and of course, I'm very interested in that as well. Yeah. So was that an intentional switch, or did you always start work with that target group?
It was an intentional switch, but I started in sports and fitness. it was a big part of my life, and I would travel around the country for some major clients of mine. But what that did was really hone in my eye and train me to capture authentic moments as they're happening and how they're unfolding, because during like a sporting event you can't be like, oh, let's do that one a second time. And it's like you have to be composing the shot, getting the shot, telling the story of what's happening in that moment. And that has transferred over to when someone is in their creative flow and I'm in their workshop or their studio, when we're trying to capture what they're doing. I'm in that same mindset where I'm timing, I'm seeing what they're going to do next, and we're getting those shots that they need, so it's really authentic to them.
That
So
is really,
then, yeah,
it,
I was
no,
just going to
you
say
keep
like,
going.
so, thank you. Eventually, I got tired of all the travel and then had my son, and then really wanted to do more, something more local. And I've always loved the creative fields. Before photography, I actually went to the Rhode Island School of Design for interior design. So that creative element has always intrigued me, and I'm curious, and I'm always asking a ton of questions because I love every workshop and studio I go into. So that's how it's kind of like pivoted to that area.
So when I went to your website, I saw this one video where, what is it? It's like metalwork.
Yes,
It's yeah, that's really
blacksmith.
cool. Yeah. So, and did you? I'm just curious. Did That's probably not with the drone. That's probably because it's inside, right?
Right. The blacksmith was all, my standard equipment, but um, that was so fun to see all the things unfolding and turning. It was a pretty cool process to watch and witness. And that was in the middle of the winter. So we were like, luckily the forge keeps you warm, but yeah, you always walk into different environments and just make it work.
Yeah, that's no, that's cool. So I encourage everyone who is interested in that to look at that video. Thought that was really cool. And I mean, you already talked a little bit about that the moment when you realize that photography is not just pretty pictures. You mentioned that you can't just in fitness photography, you can't just go back and say, oh, let's do that long jump again, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so so when you work with your clients, what's the strategic tool that you're using to really make that shot count?
So a lot of with brand photography is all the prep work prior to any session happening. And the tool that I love to use is I create concept boards for the client based on, we have conversations on what, if this is a website update, if it's new product line coming in the future, there's new promotions or services, and we want to make sure there's visuals to support all those upcoming things. And those discussions really formulate what the session will be. So I create concept boards, also called mood boards, vision boards for clients. And I have a whole presentation with them before a session happens so that they are aware of what's going to happen. They know what they need to prep beforehand so we can have an efficient and effective shoot. And that tool is such a good communication tool that I started back when I was at RISD for interior design, because we use that to communicate the vision of a space. And I've tied that over to my photography, because once people see it and where we're going, they get excited, they get more ideas, and that really helps translate once we're there taking shots
Yeah,
or
I
video.
like that. I like that because that's, um, I mean, in general, the creative process, the more work you do before and the more time you put into the strategy, the better
Yes.
the outcome. And um, I just because you just mentioned that, but I just wrote a blog post about what's the difference between like a cheap logo and a more higher quality, more expensive logo. Um, and the base is essentially you have to put the strategy in and you have to learn about
Yes,
the whole client, and then the logo is so much better. And that's the same in your area as well.
exactly.
So you describe yourself, of course, as a creative business owner as well. So how does that shared identity shape the way you show up for your clients?
When someone reaches out, I know that this is something that they didn't think of on Monday and reach out on Wednesday. This is something that they've been thinking about for months. And a lot of people, most people that I talk to, aren't excited about being in front of a camera, which I understand. So I empathize with anyone coming my way. I know that they've been really thinking about this for a long time, and I don't take it lightly that they have reached out, and I want to help them and guide them through the process. They're not alone. I am crafting the experience. I am guiding them through photo shoot or video shoot day so that they have the best result possible. And most of the time, the person that was so frightened in the beginning and hesitant, they're pushing through that fear because they know they need to do it for their business. And I get that and I honor that. So then by the time the session is over, we're already talking about future sessions. So this is how I can empathize with them as well, because I know it's a big deal and I don't take that lightly. Also, as a brand photographer, I am telling or recommending to my clients that they show up in their work. People see who's behind the work. So if I'm talking about this and wanting them to do this for their business, I need to do that too. So I try to show them on social media how I'm showing up, how I'm showing behind the scenes, because if I'm going to recommend that, I need to show them also how it can be done.
I like that because and you wrote this somewhere. I don't know where you wrote this, but or maybe it was an Instagram post that you had. It was the fear of showing your process, the fear of taking the behind the scene videos and all these elements. And I can totally relate. I don't like it. I do
Yeah.
not. I mean, I love the podcast, yeah, but it's different because I'm communicating with you, right? And I think
Yeah.
there's a difference between just standing in front of the camera and talking into the void,
Yeah.
or then or in comparison to just having someone that you can talk to, right? Having a conversation and it just happens to be
Yeah.
recorded. That's so different to I really do not like making reels on Instagram. I do not like it. I never do it. I should do it, but it's just not my favorite.
Yeah. Well, and it goes back to that whole like prep work beforehand and why I love doing the Zoom strategy call, because it's our first meeting and we can talk and I'm really setting the stage for my client to feel comfortable
Mm-hmm.
with me. And that translates so well with the photos and videos, because if you're uncomfortable, it could show through. So I want to make sure people are comfortable, and it's a collaboration. So like instead of feeling like they're posing or performing for like the camera, it's a collaboration where I am showing them the images in real time through my iPad. They see exactly what's happening and what they're getting. And they get so excited because they're like, wow, I didn't even know this was possible. And like, wow, okay, I can see how I can use this. And we're always talking about how they're going to use it on social. So all those little moments are built in so that they feel more comfortable and they're excited and feel confident then to be showing up on social.
So when you record those videos, let's say you're recording a video, I don't know, for a graphic designer, let's just
Yeah.
use that example, um, to be then on social media. That's also pre-planned, like the way you just described, right? So you have the whole so then my interest is, so this is all you, then I'm assuming you have a transcriptor or something, right? Or,
Sometimes.
yeah.
Depends on the project. If we're doing like a heavy marketing to camera, speaking to camera, versus if they need just clips or a website header banner where there isn't going to be
Yeah.
audio.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of piggyback what I'm doing in terms of photography, so I can capture both in motion and still.
Mm-hmm.
But with the marketing piece, yeah, there could be a script or an outline, or I could be peppering them with questions. There's so many, it really depends on the person and the project.
Yeah. Because I like if I put myself into the situation, I'm
Yeah.
stressing out then. So I'm talking about these struggles.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many creatives struggle to communicate their skill and, what they're really good at? Why do you think they struggle to communicate that online? Like, let's say in Instagram videos, reels, whatever it is, just to show the process.
I think many are still stuck in show the final piece. People will get it. It will speak volumes. I don't have to say anything. People will get it, when really people are scrolling so quickly. And if they really don't know your work, how are you going to draw them in? And showing the process, whether I always recommend when you're first starting, even if it's your hands in the pitch in the frame, if it's just a still image or a video clip or a quick time lapse, you don't have to talk. You don't have to have, you can have the perfect angle of your studio space. Even if it's a tight hand shot, you're humanizing your content. People are being drawn in and saying, oh, okay, what is she or he up to now? What was this journey? You just didn't start painting on Monday and now you have a finished product on Friday. Like, people need to understand the effort in the decision-making process and the evolution of a piece, because then they buy in to what you're making, and they're your biggest champion along the way. So then once you do have a release of something, they want to be first in line.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're in this rut of showing that final piece, where if they could just show some slivers of what's happening in the studio, that everyday content, people, that makes the connection. That really bridges the gap between who the artist is, because in today's marketplace, people want to know who they're buying from, who they're investing in, and that process element is where you do that.
So, and I guess that's what I'm struggling with a little bit, is that the setup of my office, I mean, it's cool, but I don't think I would want to take a video of it and then put it, on social media. So are there any strategies that just for like a 30-second video to have this B-roll that you're describing without talking? How would the camera be set up, and how would it be set up so that it doesn't just look like 3 screens with the keyboard and that's it,
Well, you could always, like the over the shoulder perspective, if you had even a tripod and a camera, even your phone set up so it's almost like over your shoulder but higher, and you're seeing your, laptops, screens, your keyboard, and it could be a time lapse of you working through a design or a website. But then think of it in different layers, where you have a wider shot, which is like your setup, but then go maybe into a medium shot of like your full screen, and then get into the details of maybe those designs. And you could have it where you're opening the door to your office and walking over to the chair, and then now they're getting a bird's eye view of you working. And you can do a mix of straight video, like that walk in, to a time lapse, a little bit quick of you like typing away and seeing all the work, and then go back to a video clip. So it's keeping someone engaged and moving through instead of one long clip, because people will get bored these days on social. So it's kind of bringing them into that one little part of your world on the tabletop versus seeing your entire office. And you can highlight a project when you're doing that too. Maybe there's a cool like colorway you're working on for a website or a graphic design that had a challenge that
Mm-hmm.
this is how you overcame it. Or the story behind the business. There's so many different stories there.
Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't, obviously, sometimes, I mean, if there's the logo design or something like that, it takes days
Oh,
to
yeah,
finalize. So
yeah,
you wouldn't show, because sometimes I see these videos where you see the beginning of the, the project, and then it goes the time lapse, and then you see the finished project.
yeah,
Like, wow, but that took days. That is not
yeah,
just an hour.
yeah. So I've seen some artists actually do this where they're showing it could be just a 7-second time lapse of like evolution, but the text over it was like 300 hours, like 2 boxes of pencils, and like, they
Mm.
almost broke down 3 things, and you're like, whoa, it's like
Mm.
really quick to the point. But you get the impact of this isn't something they drew overnight and it took them 10 minutes. It like
Yeah.
really showed like the hours. And so it's kind of that creative messaging to get across of like, okay, this took 7 meetings, 4 different color options, like to really bring home like the effort behind it.
That's interesting. Okay. But for that, again, coming back to the beginning, you need a strategy.
Yeah.
You need
What's
to
the
really,
message?
exactly, you need to really think about, you can't just say, oh, I want to take a video today, so let's do this.
Right.
It has to be pre-planned, which turns then into a longer time. So,
Yeah. I mean, it could just be a simple like today I want to show that this logo doesn't take 3 hours. Okay, what do I want? What visuals can support that?
mhm.
What's going to be the message? What's going to be the text overlay if you're doing that? And you don't, when you're first starting out, you want to keep it as simple as possible. So
Mhm.
maybe it's just a 7-second clip. It doesn't have to be 30 seconds. So
Mhm.
what can you get done in like one clip? Or a couple clips packaged together. But yeah,
Yeah.
like thinking of those core business things that you want to have people know about your business is a great starting point, and
Mhm.
then just chip away at each one.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I need to just, sometimes it's like you have all these um thoughts about it, and you're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do this because A, B, C, D, E, just because you're
Yeah.
not comfortable in doing it, because you
Yeah.
haven't done it before. So
Right.
I
Baby
think,
steps.
yeah, exactly. And with everything, you just either you have to just start at one point and just do it. And
Yeah.
then whatever comes of it, then that's the result and you learn from it. Or
Yeah.
you hire someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah. And I always believe that everything you're planting a seed, every post is almost a seed that you're planting.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know who's seeing it, you don't know who's earmarking that for another point and coming back to you. Just getting that information out there and them seeing you, it will compound the more you do it.
Yeah. Oh, like you seeing my post on LinkedIn for the
Yes.
podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, do you remember if it was on my personal profile or on the business profile?
I think you shared it. You shared the business onto your personal. I
I
think the
see. Yes.
personal popped up.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good to know.
Yeah.
A little bit about the clients that you have worked with. So have you seen like a transformation of a client after you worked with them? Because, and the reason why I'm asking this is because when I got my brand photography, my brand photos done, my whole Instagram feed changed to so like to just better, right? It was an instant switch from good to now feeling super confident and super awesome about that feed, right? So that
Yeah.
transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely that because now you have consistent, visuals that you can pull to really the goal is to build more business. So when you have these professional photos or videos, you can really up level your professional look, all those things. And it can go and it goes beyond social too. So yes, you can up level your website. And I've worked with clients for every year for the past like 7 years, and they have like a huge bank of images that they can pull. They can also now pull to do like, historical stories of like, oh, this is where I started. So if they wanted to talk about where they started, where they are now they still have that whole bank of images that they can draw from. So that's been fun because a recent client was able to do that I've been working with for years. But also with the video, that too can play well with social and website. But now they can support their emails, they can support their proposal writing, grant writing. They have, if they're doing pitches for different magazines, they now can pull from these visuals instead of if the media comes knocking at their door and now they're scrambling, they
Mm-hmm.
have something, they feel supported. So those have been the great transformations that I've seen, that now there's like this almost a relaxation of like, okay, I'm covered. And then now I know how to proceed. And they feel more confident in what they're talking about too.
Mm-hmm.
So visually they feel confident. And now in their, either in their copy or when they're speaking at events, they have that support and feel confident in what they're sharing.
Yeah, and that's definitely what I noticed as well, that I was just in general more confident in the stuff that I was putting out, because it just
Yeah.
felt right. It didn't
Right.
feel outdated. It didn't, it just felt good.
Yeah, well, when they're aligned, that's also
Yeah.
the key too. So if you get images back and they don't feel like you, or they don't, then it's now you're conflicted. So when they're aligned like that, home run.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, and I think we this next question, I think we talked about that a little bit, but maybe we can go a little bit more into detail. That
Okay.
you talk about translating the creative process into the visual storytelling. So, what does that actually mean in a practice, in practice during the shoot?
Sure. So if there's all little stories happening within a shoot. So it might be their process of how they create, and we want to, if they have unique materials, unique machinery, their process is unique. Those are all little stories right there. So we want to make sure that that is documented, whether they're mixing the paint or running the machine. We want to show them in that environment, in that process, whether they're running something. And that goes with like their core business stories, whether they're US made or their studio is in, obviously, if it's in Connecticut, we want to like highlight where they are. If it's like an environmental link, like yesterday I did a post on social media talking about working with the interior designer in Newport, Rhode Island, and like being in Newport is important to her story. So she was working on a project on a very known street in Newport. So if people know Newport, they could see her on the street. So we wanted that as like a background and a backdrop. So we're just tying in those layers versus if you're in a studio, it's especially for creative business owners, it's tough to layer in all those stuff because you can't bring your studio with you. That's why I love being in their authentic spaces, because everything is layered in their story. So their backdrop will have parts of their process of past projects that we can lean to. And that's how I kind of fold in their story based on kind of what they're doing, where they started, and where they're going.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. When you meet your prospects or your clients, you mentioned at the beginning that these people already thought about contacting you. So they already, they have a need. But how do you make them respect and invest in that, in your talent,
Yeah.
in your work. Because I can imagine that it's not $500 to get, a
Yeah.
video. So,
Yeah.
um, when you approach someone, so what do you do?
Luckily, many times people are coming my way with whether it's a referral or a repeat customer, of course. Social media, I
Hmm.
use that as my friend, and I want to put myself out there because when someone comes by my social media, they will instantly understand my vibe, what I shoot, and you're not for every person. So people may be like, no, she's not for me, or yes, like she totally gets it. I need her to work with her. So many times I find that some people may be watching on social media and then finally come my way
Hmm.
to have a discovery call. But one of the biggest challenges is I'm always educating on what a brand photographer is because many times people will only have experience with just using a wedding photographer at their wedding or a family photographer. And a photographer for your business is someone different. We have to have like a marketing hat on for your session because not everyone has a marketing person or an agency or a marketing team. So as a photographer, I am approaching your project with that marketing hat.
Hmm.
So when we get on a call, I am hearing everything that they're needing, but then I'm also letting them know, okay, this is why I'm different and that we're going to do this strategy meeting and we're going to have concept boards. And I want to know what future projects that you're working on or promotions. And we're going to craft intentional images or video to support that. And this is a different experience if they've only worked with a different type of photographer. So I'm always in that education mode to let them know like what the value is because they're always, if this is a brand new project for them, they've never hired a photographer for their business before, they're always pleasantly surprised on like how the process goes because they're wearing most of the hats in their business.
Yeah.
They might not know what images or videos that they need.
Yeah.
So I do a full assessment of where they are now. I provide my recommendations and what they would help them in the future based on what they think they need as well and support them through the whole process. So I try with my website to explain a lot of this too, but that's kind of how it evolves from when they first enter the door until we have a session.
Yeah. And I think it's very important that you highlight your process, but also um, that the client realizes that it's an investment into their business. And
Right.
depending on how much you spend, this is the value you will be getting out of it. So it's like I mentioned at the beginning, a $500 logo is different to a 5,000 brand strategy, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's, I think lots of people have to realize that in order to grow in their own business, they will have to invest into something good so that in the
Yeah.
end they can feel confident in what we talked about a little earlier, that you really feel good about your social presence, your the overall, that everything
Yes.
everything works together, like the website works with the socials and the strategy and everything. It just makes you feel more calm, I believe.
Yes.
So,
And it's not like you're getting the images and they're a one use.
yeah.
Like if you get your wedding images, they're just that one use of that wedding event. These images, I always like to think of them as almost like another form of currency. These are, you're investing, but you should be getting that investment back from the use of these visuals.
Yeah.
And you can be using them in all different ways. We might take them to support a certain project or promotion, but you can also use them again down the road for reflecting on that promotion, talking about the new promotion. So they're always working for you. They're always by your side. I want them to work as hard as you do. And just like that client I was mentioning before that I've worked with for like 7 years, she's still using some of those shots from way back then to talk about her business now. So it is that mindset of like when you just use that one-time photographer for that one event versus I'm now your creative partner with you on your journey, your business journey, and that you need the images to help elevate and get your messages out there so you build business.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. Um, so, well, we talked about this, how it looks like when a branding is misaligned. I mean, we talked about it. It just doesn't feel good, right? I want to touch a little bit on authenticity because this is the big word, right? Isn't it the ChatGPT word of
Yes.
the year? I don't know. To be authentic. So what does it really mean? Especially with regards to the videos that you take, the images that you take, how can you be authentic? Or maybe we can find a different word for it, but to translate all this into social media, and the reason why I'm asking is, I just had a conversation with a friend of mine, and the only time he sees me is when we go for a run. So I usually am not dressed up. I have my running clothes on, typically a hat. It's cold out. Anyways, so it's he knows me as a total different person. But then he sees the images, which are also me and 100% me
Yeah.
because, I'm very happy about those images because they really do reflect who I am. And he's like, wow, it's like a completely different person, but it's not.
Huh.
So even though those images, but those two personas that are there are authentic. So, like, I wouldn't post me running on my business profile, even
Would
though
you
it
put it in your stories? That
maybe in
could
the
be good for
stories, yes,
stories.
maybe in the stories, yes, yeah. But that's what I'm also struggling with a little bit because both
Yeah.
of these people both of these personas are authentic, are
Yeah.
real. I just
Yeah.
have to merge them somehow.
Well, stories is a good place for that bridge
Hmm.
because you can get that just that's just bringing out your personality a little
Hmm.
bit more. And I bet you someone might see that and they might be a runner and be like, oh, okay, I want to work with her.
Yeah.
It's like you never know what the connection might be. Like,
Yeah.
so just stories is always a good place to kind of test those things and put those things out there. So then people can kind of merge those two personalities or
Hmm.
personas
Personas.
together. Yeah, together.
Yeah.
But that's why I love working in someone's actual studio or workshop because you can't replicate that environment. And
Yeah.
so it's inherently authentic to them. Um, and that's how I play into it. So it's already built in for me. And then the images are that much more powerful because there's only that one space.
Yeah.
So you're being drawn into their unique space.
Yeah. That's interesting. And then is there such a thing as being too polished?
I think when individuals get too edited, like that's when it comes off as does not feel authentic or like
Yeah.
maybe too polished. Like people can see right through that, I think, nowadays, definitely.
So if I post
Um
a picture of me looking like I'm 15 years old
exactly.
with all the
So I
filters.
think that, yeah, people kind of can see that because you don't, if especially if you're a creative business owner and you're working with clients and they're coming to meet you, if you look like a totally different person in the photos, there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
So you want to have that, like when you meet them, it feels like, oh yeah, this is the person.
Ah,
I'm in the right place.
yeah. So I need to post more running videos. Ooh, talking about running videos. There's this drone that follows you around. Have you heard of that one?
Yes,
It's
those
pretty
smaller
cool.
drones.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
pretty cool, especially because it lands on your hand. I
Oh
don't know.
my gosh.
I know it's super cute,
I,
but I'm not going to get it. But I
okay.
thought that was very interesting. Um, And a little tip for all the creatives out there. Is there some mistakes that you see that creative business owners make repeatedly when it comes to how they present themselves online?
Sure. There's two ways I would say. One, they're not showing up in their visuals at all. You can be scrolling and scrolling on their social media and you never see their face. You don't know who's behind the business. Is there a person behind the business? And especially everyone's so worried about AI that it would be like creatives are in this prime position where they can show up and they can bring people into their space with their process, and it's like they're in this like great spot. So one, they're not showing up at all. You never see a picture of someone.
Mm-hmm.
Two, when they will show work in progress shots, they're not part of that either. It's just parts and pieces, maybe on the workbench, or just all the materials scattered. And it's for them, that's their work in progress, but you don't see them. And just having that human element to it makes it so much more impactful versus just seeing items laying on the bench. So those are the two things that I probably see the most, is that, and I guess they're the same, that they're not in the content that they're showing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I get, like, especially I think with video, because pictures, I mean, I don't have that many videos, but I feel like that's important because there's so many pictures now on social media, and like you said at the beginning, you just scroll,
Yeah.
and if it's not interesting, then nobody's going to remember what they saw.
Right.
Oh yeah, interesting videos, definitely. If someone is listening and a creative business owner and they feel that their work is undervalued and they're not sure where to start, what's a tip that you can give them, how they can get started, what to do?
Sure. So if we're thinking of becoming more social on social media and building that end, I would first have them kind of assess themselves, their social media account. Are they showing up? Would someone know who's behind the business if they landed there? The second thing is think of the project that they're currently working on or are super proud of that they accomplished last year, that they could create a story behind, or not create, but tell the story behind that project. Maybe there was a challenge. Maybe it was something that, like a cool collaboration or something that really stretched them. Sharing these small stories is how they're going to be building the connection with their audience and where their value is going to increase, because people are now understanding more about their process, about how they work, and more about them. So I would have them look at their project they're working on right now. They could create a reel, they could create a carousel post, and just walking through the story, the little storyline or the challenge or what makes it unique. Now, they need to have, I always recommend having the text on the carousel slides because, again, most people are not listening or have their audio on for social media. So if they're talking, they need to have their captions on. But if there's no talking, they need to at least have some text on there to bring someone along so they can keep swiping through.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I would start. I would really start leaning on these micro stories that they already have existing in their studio right now to start building that value, because price doesn't really become an option well, let me rephrase that. Price only becomes an issue when someone doesn't see the value. So upticking on the value by showing your process will help mitigate the value issue.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
If someone would like to get in contact with you, do you travel, by the way? Do you travel outside?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
How far do you travel?
Depends on the project. I'll go anywhere in the budget.
So if anybody's listening and they would like to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
So on my website, which is nbphotog.com, and then on Instagram, which is nbedardphotog. And those are the two main areas. And then you can reach out through the website and we can set up a discovery call and go from there.
Awesome. So thank you so much. We are already, pretty much at the end of the podcast. So that was very interesting. And I really loved the conversation about, the videos and the tips that you gave and how to show up authentically. And I love that you work with creatives because obviously it's my passion as well. So to just make them show up, I really like that. So, and to everybody else, if you would like to get in contact with Nicole or learn more, you can go to her website, and I'm going to link that in the show notes, as well as Instagram and YouTube. You mentioned that before we started recording. You mentioned your YouTube channel. Capture Your Process.
Yes, Capture Your Process is all to support creative business owners trying to capture their visuals before they bring in professionals.
Awesome. So I'll link that also. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with a creative friend who needs to hear it. And if you've been enjoying the show, subscribe and leave a review. It helps more creative business owners find us. And see you next time on This Might Get Creative, a Behind the Brand podcast. Thanks for listening to This Might Get Creative, a Behind the Brand podcast by Lyon Creatives. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show and share it with someone who loves discovering local businesses and creative entrepreneurs. You can learn more about my work at lioncreatives.com or find me on Instagram, lyon.creatives, and LinkedIn at Lyon Creatives. Until next time, keep showing up, keep creating, and keep getting seen.